In this week's Parsha, we learn of Avraham Avinu's fanaticism for Chesed, and we learn about Sodom. I guess these are the two extremes. The Parsha begins with Avraham Avinu ailing. Hashem, in order to protect him, makes for the blazing sun to prevent passers-by, to possibly attract his attention, so that he should rest up. But no, that's not a life for Avraham Avinu. So Hashem has to perform another miracle and have 3 angels dressed up as people. So Avraham Avinu can have his guests. A fanaticism for Chesed. And there's stone that has to be overturned. What was their sin? So we learn, and we see in the Parsha, Chesed was a crime. Not just any crime. It was punishable by death. It's so difficult to imagine these two extremes coexisting. Avraham Avinu, who actually brought Hashem into the world by way of Chesed. There was no way that humanity could possibly grasp why an all-powerful, infinite existence should feel like creating us. The various pagan gods historically were all monsters. You had to serve them, you had to please them, you had to pacify them. Avraham Avinu taught the world the concept of Chesed, but with a fanaticism. What is the concept of Chesed? It's not feeling bad for the underprivileged. When Hashem created, there were no underprivileged. There was no one to feel bad for. Chesed is to be a giver. That's what you define yourself as. Whatever it means for Hashem to define himself. Yes, he defines himself as the ultimate giver. The world couldn't possibly comprehend such a thing until they saw a human being who was like that. Avraham Avinu, who needed to give, who couldn't live without it. That's how he was Korei B'Shem Hashem. This is how he brought Hashem's name to the world. He made it possible for the human being to conceive of Hashem creating for the simple purpose of giving. And then there's Sodom, where the whole city collects, the whole city is ready to attack Lot because he's entertained strangers. Why did Sodom have to be destroyed? They didn't do chesed. Rav Nissim Gaon, in his introduction to Shas, printed in Brachas Daf Aleph, just before the Masechta starts, he asks, chesed was not one of the Sheva mitzvahs b'nei Noach. The nations of the world were never commanded to do chesed. Why is Sodom being destroyed? Because they weren't into it. And he says you don't need a mitzvah for this one. The universal human experience is such that giving feels right. And if you can create a philosophy that is so counterintuitive, considering that criminal, and by the way, it's not like that philosophy never surfaced afterwards. But Sodom was the first. They had no right to exist on this earth. So these are the two extremes. So Sodom is about to be destroyed. And Hashem says, how can I do that without informing Avraham Avinu? So Avraham Avinu gets up there and says, Hashem, 1 second. And he realizes that he's addressing Hashem in a way that perhaps will cost him his life. And he says, how could it be? Hashofet kol haaretz, the judge of all of humanity, lo ya'aseh mishpat. How could it be that what you're doing is unjust? Perhaps there are 50 tzaddikim there. 40, 30. Hashem, are you sure that everyone there is bad? Maybe. Maybe there's some good people in Sodom. Now, how could it be? Avraham Avinu was risking his life, pleading with Hashem, trying to save Sodom. You think Chesed is feeding 3 malachim, 3 angels? Chesed is trying to save the people that believe that everything you stand for is not just wrong, but is worthy of destruction. There's a death penalty for Chesed. And by the way, Avraham Avinu didn't plead for mercy for the poor Sodom people. He knew they were wicked, and there's no hope. If he thought he could change them, Avraham Avinu was not someone that thought twice about being makar of people. If he thought there was any way of saving them, of changing the way they think and live, he would have done it. He knew there was no hope. And nevertheless, he looked for some way that they would be saved. No, he didn't ask for mercy. He knew there was no way that we can just have mercy on people with such a lifestyle, with such an ideology. But he had to find some way of saving them. Yeah, Chesed's heartwarming. Chesed's heartwarming. Everyone knows that. The test of Chesed is, what are you willing to do for the people that double cross you? What are you willing to do for the people that not just disagree with you, that wish to undermine everything you stand for? You see, until we develop within ourselves that kind of fanaticism for Chesed, we couldn't possibly understand Hashem. We cannot grasp what Hashem is all about. The idea that the everythingness, Hashem, missing nothing, creates us, creates a world that denies his existence, a world that is so filled with people that are trying to convince those who do believe that they're off. Hashem created such a world and sustains them. We can't possibly grasp what Hashem is until we develop within ourselves a fanaticism for Chesed. No, not compromising on our values, not joining them, but to care. To care. We're living in tough times. We're living in tough times. There are people out there, they're all over the web. There are people out there whose goal in life is to convince the committed, to convince the believers that it's untrue. That is their goal in life. They stop at nothing. Our goal is to feel for them and save them. What we're committed to is saving every self-hating Jew. Every Jew who's out to destroy Aish every Jew that is out to destroy those who claim that there's absolute truth. There's a creator. Torah is authentic. Until you feel for them, until you feel the pain of their neshamas, you don't know what chesed is, and you can't understand what Hashem is all about. If Avraham Avinu can plead for Sodom, we got to daven for them and do what we can. We got to care for every self-hating Jew. And if we care enough, we'll bring them over. And then the world will be a whole different place.